Okay, in this new series devoted to what I call n-Tuple Bessey sequences, we will look at different ways that we can leverage the invariance of Bessey sequences of different orders. So here in this first video, we'll be looking at Bessey sequences of order 8. Okay, so our definitions here. So a two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8 is simply any sequence of this form right here. So I'm hoping that you can see readily how this was built and why we would call this a two-tuple Bessey sequence. Now notationally we're going to write these n-tuple Bessey sequences using, quote, exponents. Now ordinarily exponents are used to represent repeat multiplication, but here they represent repeat concatenation. Okay, so the 1 to the, quote, second power just means we have a pair of ones. 1, 1 is being represented by 1 to the second. Okay, we have a couple of 2's there, 0 to the second, 2 more zeros, 2 to the second, and so forth. So this is a far more compact way of writing a two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8. And then, as you might imagine, a three-tuple is just a generalization of that, where we start with 3 1s and then a group of 3 zeros, 3 zeros, 3 1s, 3 zeros, and so forth. And notationally, a three-tuple Bessey sequence is written as shown here. In general, an n-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8 will be where we have n 1s, followed by n zeros. Those are followed by another set of n zeros. Those are followed by n 1s, and so forth. And mathematically, we'll write this n-tuple Bessey sequence in this way here. And you may recall that there are Bessey sequences of order 2 to the m for every odd value of m. Similarly, we can define n-tuple quasi-Bessey sequences, and these will be of length 2 to the m, where m is even. Okay? So how can we make use of these n-tuple Bessey sequences and quasi-Bessey sequences? Well, in this video here, the primary goal is just to point out this kind of structure to the viewer, and then from there I think you'll be able to come up with many applications of this idea. Now I will give an example in this video today, but I just want you to know that my primary goal here is just to point out, hey, consider doing this with a Bessey sequence where we repeat the zeros and ones in some way, but we are still able to leverage the remarkable invariance of the fundamental Bessey sequence itself. Okay, so that's kind of where we're headed in this first video in this series. Okay, so I call this a double trouble. Okay, and as you might imagine, this will involve a Bessey sequence written as a two-tuple. Now before we do this, let me just point out some important permissible mixing that can be done with a two-tuple Bessey sequence and not have that sequence fundamentally harmed or undermined in any way. Okay? So these are just tools of the trade to be aware of. Techniques that you can put in your toolbox when you deal with two-tuple Bessey sequences or higher. Okay, so K is for Klondike. So the Klondike shuffle followed by the LR shuffle, in which we stack the left pile on top of the right, that ends up preserving the two-tuple Bessey sequence precisely. Okay, so it won't invert it. Now, it doesn't preserve it in the sense of the identity permutation, but it does preserve it in terms of its Bessie structure. Okay? On the other hand, a Klondike shuffle followed by a left-right shuffle, but this time in which the right pile is stacked on top of the left, that particular sequence of shuffles will invert a two-tuple Bessie sequence. Now, as you probably know, whether a shuffle preserves or inverts a Bessie sequence is not all that important. Both of those outcomes are acceptable. Both of them preserve the fundamental underlying structure of the Bessie sequence. So in other words here, the KLR shuffle preserves two-tuple Bessie sequences up to inversion. So inversion may occur, but that's not going to be a problem for us moving forward. Okay, here is another very useful sequence of shuffles that can be used on two-tuple Bessie sequences of order 8. What will happen here, though, is it will convert this two-tuple Bessie sequence of order 8 to a quasi-Bessie sequence of order 16, which in and of itself is quite wonderful, actually. So this is the LR shuffle followed by the Klondike. Okay, and that's the reverse order to the one over here. Okay. Now I do also want to remind the viewer that the LR deal, that just means a left-right deal in which you don't stack the two piles together, will convert a two-tuple Bessie sequence of order 8 into two inverted Bessie sequences of order 8. Okay. And we'll see that kind of moving forward in a few minutes. Number 5, the LR shuffle converts two-tuple Bessie sequences of order 8 into the concatenation of two inverted Bessie sequences. Okay, so for example, if we begin with the one over here, what we'll get then is we'll get a 0, 1, 1, 0. 1, 0, 0, 1, followed by 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. Okay, so that is the concatenation of two inverted Bessie sequences. And it has an SOO CMA structure, if you're interested. Okay, and number 6, a single Klondike shuffle of a two-tuple Bessie sequence of order 8 creates a mess. Okay, so we've been using this Klondike with the LR or the LR with the Klondike, and we get interesting things happening. Or just an LR deal will do something interesting, as we pointed out here. And even the LR shuffle by itself will do something in which we still have knowledge of the resulting structure. Now, that is not true for a single Klondike shuffle in which no other shuffling is done immediately after it. It will indeed create a mess. Okay, so a single Klondike shuffle is bad to apply to a two-tuple Bessie sequence of order 8. Okay. Now, it is true, though, that Klondike shuffling a quasi-Bessie sequence of order 16 converts it to an inverted two-tuple Bessie sequence of order 8, which is super cool. Okay, so if you've watched videos on quasi-Bessie sequences of order 16, what we're saying here is a single Klondike shuffling of that packet will convert it into a two-tuple Bessie sequence, but quote, it will be inverted from the original structure that the quasi-Bessie sequence had. So zeros and ones will switch places. But once again, that does not pose a significant problem for us at all. Okay, so I thought I would point that out. Okay, and then number 8, we have the Bessie 2-2 shuffle inverts a two-tuple Bessey sequence. Okay, this is where you have a packet of cards and you take one off and then a second one off. So two from the top, two from the bottom. Sorry, two from the top, two from the bottom, and so forth. Okay, so that's a Bessey 2-2, and it actually, in some sense, preserves up to inversion a two-tuple Bessey sequence. So that's very nice. Okay, and I have also discovered that the Klondike shuffle followed by an up jog, so this will be an even or odd up jog, will either preserve or invert a two-tuple Bessey sequence. Okay, so you can actually follow the Klondike with an LR, or you can follow it with an up jog, either even or odd up jog. Okay, so very nice. Okay, so this is before we've even divided the sequence of 16 cards into two smaller sequences of 8 cards. You can actually perform the Klondike followed by an even or odd up jog, and you have not destroyed anything important. Okay, so here's a very, very simple application involving two-tuple Bessey sequences. Now, it is true that I've kind of made it really orderly here as far as suggesting certain cards. I think I'm going to break with that right now because you don't need to be that specific there. So really what I need 2 red, so you got 2 red, and then a total of 4 black. So 1, 2, 3, 4, a couple of red, okay, of any of the 2 suits, a couple of black, so maybe we'll do a king and an 8, a total of 4 red, so there's a red, there's a red, there's a red, and maybe a 3, okay? And now 2 black cards. Okay, so why don't we do a 7 and a queen of spades, okay? So this has this, let me go ahead and just gather this and then kind of display it a little better for you to see. Okay, so let's see if we can do this without running into that seam there between the pieces of paper. Okay, so I need a couple of red, I have them, a total of 4 black, which I have, a couple of red, a couple of black, 4 red, 2 black. Okay, so this is a two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8, and the card characteristic of interest to us is the color. Okay, so we're really just focused on the colors of the cards. Okay, and for that reason, it might be best actually to use kind of a random mixture of cards as long as you have the right colors in the right places. Okay, so it doesn't really have to be that orderly. Okay, now I mentioned here you can do some optional pre-mixing, so you can perform as many KLR shuffles with random stacking as the spectator calls for, and then depending upon the stacking order of the LR shuffles, the two-tuple Bessey sequence may now be inverted, which is not a problem. What we just showed you a minute ago over here is that you can actually, well, we can do a Bessey 2-2. Why don't we do one of those? This will actually invert it, which is fine. So you go 1, 2, like that. 1, 2 from the bottom, 2 from the top, 2 from the bottom, 2 from the top, 2 from the bottom, 2 from the top, 2 from the bottom. Okay. In fact, let me just show you that that has actually inverted it. I claimed it does on the piece of paper there, but why don't we go ahead and just verify that. So where we had red cards, we now have black, as you can see there. Okay. Now we can actually perform a Klondike followed by an LR, as suggested here, or we can actually do a Klondike followed by an up jog. So why don't we do that really fast? So this is like pre-mixing that you can do. Maybe you showed, so just think about that. Maybe you showed the spectator this packet or the original one before we inverted it, okay? And if you show it quickly, it's going to look like a mess, actually, if you have a mixture of values and suits there, okay? But to kind of further allay any suspicions the spectator may have about that particular arrangement of the cards, you can go ahead and perform a Klondike shuffle Okay? And you can even point out to the spectator how this is really just mixing the cards, because it's taking cards off, one from the top, one from the bottom, and bringing them together. Okay? So, I mean, where are things now? What a mess. And then we could follow that up with an LR, or we could even just do an up jog. Why don't we do this little even up jog? So this is where you push forward the even position cards, the cards in the even positions, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so forth. Strip those out with random stacking. Isn't that wonderful? So the spectator can say, I want the right on left. Very good. Okay. So depending on whether you stack left on right or right on left, it will invert it. Okay. But we still have, of course, a two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8. So nothing's been harmed. Okay. So let's go on to the next page here. Oh, also, with any packet structure that is invariant under packet reversals, you can always perform an FL squared F. A first shall be last, and a last shall be first. Now, each one of these will reverse the order of the cards, which of necessity also inverts the two-tuple Bessey sequence. And as I've said, that doesn't really matter. Okay, so how does that work? A first shall be last, a last shall be first. This is where you begin dealing randomly until the spectator says stop. And then maybe you'll deal a few more and they say stop there, and that's fine. A few more there. Okay, stop. Stop there. Okay, very good. And so this shuffle's given its name because the first shall be last, and the last ones dealt are the first ones to be picked up. Okay, so first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Okay, and with a little bit of reflection, you'll probably realize that we've just reversed the order of all of the cards. That's really all we've done. But it won't harm any Bessey structure whatsoever, actually. And then I point out that we can do a Bessey 2-2. Oh, let me make you aware of something. So if you go to the Hidden Structures YouTube channel, on the channel there is a performance called the Australian 16-card game. This is really fun to perform, and it's a very interesting effect. Okay, now before I gave these n-Tuple Bessey sequences their names, I actually used a, quote, two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8 within that performance. Okay, but this was before I formally thought through these are important structures for us to study moving forward, because they could be extremely valuable in so many different applications. But I didn't have the nomenclature in place to know what to call it. Okay, but now with the video today, we actually have a name for it. So within that performance, the 16-card packet is actually a two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8, similar to what we're talking about here. Okay, so that really is a fun one to watch. So if you want to click on that at the end of this video, I think I have a link to it. And this is one that you could pick up and learn right away, and it's so amazingly surprising that the spectators I've shown it to just are blown away. It's like, how is this even possible? Okay, so that's a fun one to look up. Okay, so this double trouble, I call it, start with the above, a two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8. So what I'm suggesting, so we're kind of going back in time. Now I've done some pre-mixing of this, but for this double trouble, what you would do is you begin with a two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8 at the bottom of the deck. Okay, okay, so it's almost kind of going back in time a little bit as to how you could start all of this. Now it is true you could begin with that original packet of 16 cards and go from there. Okay, so you would skip some of what's coming up here. But if you want to just pull out a deck of cards, which ostensibly is ready to be used, right? It's a randomized deck of cards. This would be one way to do it. Have this two-tuple Bessey sequence at the bottom of the deck, so it's all ready. Okay. Now, step 2, perform an in-hand messy shuffle. Okay. Now, there are many shuffles you could do where you retain the bottom stock. That's the phrase they use. You know, where you kind of mix it in a way, that it looks like the cards have been scrambled, portions of the deck have been moved around, when in fact they haven't been. Okay, nothing's actually been harmed. Okay, so this is actually one of the mixing procedures I actually show on the, what I call it, card handling for math nerds. Okay, so it's actually on the Hidden Structures channel as well. But that's not the one I'm referring to here. That's a false triple cut, and then I did a false quad swing cut. Okay, but anyway, the one I'm referring to here is you just bring out the cards as if, you know, you've pulled them out of the deck. So what is this in-hand messy shuffle? This is kind of the in-hand messy shuffle I have in mind. So you just kind of slowly go down, you know, and just really just kind of mix things up. Now, all you have to do is, as you get close to the bottom here, you have to be a little bit careful, okay? And hopefully I've been careful enough. I think maybe I have. So the key is there's 16 cards down here that you've got to protect, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, well, I wasn't very careful there. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to have to kind of fix things here. It's probably right here, actually. Yeah, okay. So you just kind of mix up portions. Let's just make sure we have a two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8, and we do. Okay, we're back to where we need to be. So just be careful that as you get down to the bottom 4th or 3rd-ish of the deck, that you just put that back, just, you know, back at the bottom. Okay, so here. But you know, as the spectators watching this, so I've already put, the bottom is safely down here. I mean, the ones that I need to keep safe are way down here. But you know, the spectator, after you've gone down a good distance down the deck doing this, you're going to convince just about everyone that the cards are really not in any particular order that you as a performer could now be aware of, you know, as they watch all of this mess here, right? Okay, so that, anyway, that's what I'm referring to as a in-hand messy shuffle, okay? And then we can always quickly check that we haven't destroyed anything. How did we do? Oh, we did destroy something. Oh, no, sorry, I'm looking at the bottom. The top. That's not where the two-tuple Bessey sequence is. It's at the bottom. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have, okay, 2 black, that's good. 4 red, 2 black, that's good. 2 red, 4 black, and 2 red. Okay, so the so the two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8 is at the bottom. Sorry, flip the deck over, and then I confused top and bottom of the deck. Okay, and so what you can do here now is you can have the spectator participate as well. You just, you know, put the deck down and ask them to cut off about half the deck. You know, it actually doesn't matter as long as they don't cut down into that bottom 16 packet, right? So maybe they cut off, you know, about half. You know, it's about half. You can discard those now. We don't need those. Okay, so we'll just work with these. Okay, so that once again kind of gives the illusion of, okay, well, we've just cut to a random place in the deck, which we have. Okay, and now we're going to perform a first shall be last and a last shall be first, okay, on this bottom portion that we've retained. Well, think about what that's going to do. This shuffle, first shall be last, last shall be first, is a packet reversal. So the bottom cards get moved to the top, and the top cards get moved to the bottom, okay? So this is where you just deal until they say stop, stop, stop there, okay? You're going to stop sometime? Stop there? Okay. So first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Okay. So what that does, really, it has a functional purpose. It moves the bottom 16 cards, of course, to the top, where we need them. 2 black, 4 red, 2 black, 2 red, 4 black, and 2 red. Okay, very good. So we have this two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8 at the top. And then at this point you can tell the spectator, well, for this particular effect today, we actually only need 16 cards. But I do want to drive home, what we've done to get these 16 cards, okay? So we started with the deck, and then I did this really kind of messy shuffle. And then I had you randomly cut off a certain portion over here. You decided what would be thrown away, and we threw it away. And then from there, I did this first shall be last, last shall be first, where you decided where we would stop dealing at each point. Okay? So think about all of those choices, most of them out of my hands, of course. And now we need 16 cards. So I'll just deal out 16. So 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay. Now, if you can deal them off in a way kind of similar to what I've done, where you make a bit of a mess of it, but you don't want to make too big of a mess, otherwise you'll have cards sliding past each other in this, special arrangement of this packet of 16 cards. Okay? So you just gather them up as if it's not too important as to how they're gathered up, when it is quite important. Okay, guess I want to point out something here. The earlier, do you remember? Let's see, optional pre-mixing. Okay, so what I started with when I gave you a whole bunch of different ways of mixing this without undermining its structure, those ideas actually apply at this point in this double trouble routine. Okay. So I hope that's not too confusing, but the shuffles we were talking about just a moment ago are dealing with this two-tuple Bessey sequence, right, of order 8. So these 16 cards now, okay? And so as we mentioned there, you can perform a Klondike followed by an LR, or first shall be last, last shall be first, or you can do a Bessie 2-2 shuffle to further mix the cards. Why don't we go ahead and just do a Klondike left-right, because I think we did a Klondike up jog, right? Isn't that right? So why don't we do a Klondike and then a left-right. So Klondike is where you take the top and bottom cards off as one. Here you go. That's the Klondike shuffle. And then we'll follow that up with the LR shuffle. So just left-right. Now, like I said earlier, we did an up jog, which works as well. A random stacking here decided by the spectator. Okay, very good. That's great. Okay, and then you can do additional mixing if you want. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use something called a 50% down under, or a 50% under down shuffle to create two Bessey sequences of order 8. Okay, so why are we doing that? Well, you'll see in a minute. It's going to lead into our matching color game in just a second. Okay. Now there are other ways of getting these two sets of 8, but this is just kind of a cool way to do it. So a 50% down under, you just perform the down under shuffle, but you do it for half the cards, and you explain to the spectator that, okay, well, we need 2 packets of 8 cards each for each of us, and kind of a clever way to do it is to further mix the cards as we actually create our piles. Instead of just taking the top 8 for you and the bottom 8 for me, why don't we really kind of mix up who's getting which cards, okay? So, so we go, so down, under, 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 down, under. How many cards do we have? We have 8. We have 8 cards. Okay, so we can stop there. Okay, so we have 2 piles of 8. That's a 50% down under. Okay, so these are the 2 packs. So this would be like yours as the spectator, and then this would be mine as the performer. Okay, so with 2 piles of 8. Oh, now I point out that these will be the inversion of one another. These are going to be little Bessie sequences of order 8, which they are. Okay, so like black, red, red, black, red, black, black, red. Okay, well, let me just lay them out so you can see. So these will be the, quote, inversion of one another. Well, inversion just means reds and blacks have switched places, or zeros and ones have switched places. And you can see that that's true here. We have red, black, black, red, black, red, red, black. Okay, so these are the inversion of one another. Okay, so keep that in mind. Well, in particular, keep in mind the following, that the top card of your pile is the opposite color to the top card of mine. Go one more down. Yours is red, mine is black. Yours is red, mine is black. Yours is black, mine's red. Okay, so right now they're in some sense, well, they're the inversion of each other. They're kind of out of sync. Okay, and that will be important for our little game here in a second. In fact, it doesn't actually matter who gets which packet. So flip a coin to decide who goes first. Okay. So you could do that. I didn't bring a coin with me, so sorry about that. I was going to flip a coin. But in the performance, when you go to do it, you just have the spectator decide who should go first. It really is a free choice, okay? Now, depending on who they say goes first, and depending on who you want to win this little game over and over, you'll have to kind of make an adjustment as to what you do going forward. Okay, so for example, if the spectator goes first, that's you over here, check for matching color pairs immediately. Why is that? Well, we just pointed out they're going to fail. They're going to fail to match any pairs of cards in color. Okay. Now, if the spectator says, no, I want the performer to go first. Okay, you say, well, that's fine. Then what you do is you then perform your down under shuffle before checking for matching pairs. Okay, so let's just do kind of a round of this, and I think you'll see what's going on. Okay, so if the spectator says they want to go first, you say, well, that's fine. Okay, well, let's just see how you've done. The goal is to match color pairs. How did you do? That's a fail. 0 matching. Still 0. No match there. Oh boy, yeah, you've got some pretty bad luck here. No match in color. No match in color. Oh man, are you going to get any of these? Sorry, I'm having a hard time taking it off the... Nope, that's a fail. And, whoops, a fail again. Oh, you poor soul. You got 0 out of 4, or 8, I guess, sorry, 8 possible matching pairs. Okay, so it's my turn now. But of course, you know, we kind of know the order here, so we need to scramble these. So a good way to scramble them, as I've mentioned, is this down under shuffle. Okay, and in fact, why don't we give you the choice again? So which of these should we kind of mix up, because right now they're just not working together very well. And so you give the spectator the choice to down under shuffle either pile. It really is their choice. Okay, so let me just move these over here. Okay, so what they would do then is they would say, okay, let's down under shuffle your pile, meaning the performer's pile. Okay, so they want you to down under yours, so they can actually perform it as long as they don't like drop the cards everywhere. Okay, so here we are. Let me move your little pile here and mine here so we can see the write-up. Okay, so maybe they say, like I said, they'll say, okay, you down under shuffle yours, and you'll say, okay, that's fine. So down, under, down, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. Last one goes on top. Okay, so now it's my turn to see, how many of these, if any, I can get to match in color. Okay, so what kind of luck am I having today? Okay, so I'm trying to get a red one here. Oh, I got one. I got one at least. 1 out of 8, which is better than 0 out of 8, which is what you did, unfortunately. Okay, what about this one? Black. Oh, I got a black as well. I'm doing well, 2 out of 8. Black again. Oh, I did get it. I did get it. Oh, I even matched the suit. That's kind of nice. Red. Oh, I even matched the suit again. That's pretty cool. Oh, okay, of course, we didn't match the suit, but that's not what we were trying to do. We were trying to match in color, and we succeeded. There, we did again. We succeeded. I got 7 out of 8. Perfect score. I got a perfect score, and you got a perfect goose egg. 0. Okay, and so from this point, it's very much like the 16-card Australian game, okay, that I pointed you to, which has some other fun twists and turns to it that you may want to look at. But it's taking advantage of a two-tuple Bessey sequence of order 8. Okay, and so as mentioned here, the performer and spectator now just alternate taking turns. Okay, and you can decide whose pile is down, under, shuffled each time, or the spectator can actually decide that. But the fact is, I guess I should point out, so why is this working? Is this my last paper? It is. So why is this working? Well, if you remember, we started with 2 Bessey sequences of order 8 that were inversions of one another. Okay, so reds and blacks were switched. Okay, and so what that did was it guaranteed that right off, like the top cards wouldn't match, the second cards wouldn't match, and so forth. Well, the down-under shuffle inverts Bessey sequences of order 8. Well, if you invert either one of these, they will now be, quote, in sync. They will be identical Bessey sequences relative to a red and black card arrangement. Okay, so you can down under either one of these, and it's going to, so right now they're out of sync, right now they're in sync, sorry about that. Yeah, but right now they're back in sync because I just went and I got 100% versus yours, you got 0. Okay, and so if you down under either one of these, instead of having a red on top, in this case here, you'll have a black. Okay, so it will invert, so all reds get replaced by the blacks, or vice versa, if you want to think of it that way. Okay, so the spectator's free to decide, okay, which one should we down under? Well, they might think, well, maybe I should down under mine because he had some luck over here since we down under shuffled his, right? And that led to his success. Maybe I'll do it here. So, they'll go through and faithfully do it down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. Last one goes on top. And so they're probably feeling like, well, I'm sure I'm going to get some of these to match, but they won't because now they're out of sync. Okay, these are inversions of each other relative to their Bessey sequence structure. Okay, so they are guaranteed to be of opposite colors, all of them. All 8 pairs, okay, which is going to be probably pretty frustrating for the spectator. Now, another way to do all of this, just so you know, if you prefer to have you as the performer lose every time, and that's actually not a bad option, to have the spectator feeling pretty good about themselves, so to set it up in such a way that they always win. So you just have to kind of flip things at the beginning, okay? So at the very beginning, where we had these 2 inverted Bessey sequences of order 8, you would go first, and they're going to be out of sync, and then you do the down under, and they'll be in sync, and so forth. So from then on, the tables flip, right? Where the spectator wins every single time with 8 perfect color match pairs, and you fail every time. Every one of your pairs of cards, theirs versus yours, will be of the opposite color, okay? So it can be fun to kind of play the victim and just talk about how you as a performer have never had good luck. It's just not there for you in the universe. Anytime there's some kind of a random process involved, it always seems to go in the direction that's unfortunate for you, okay? And it seems to always go to your opponent. Okay, everyone seems to beat you in every game you play. Okay, so you just kind of exaggerate that and feign chagrin and disappointment and humiliation that you just can't seem to win at anything, and just how lucky the spectator is. I mean, it's one thing for them to match 3, 4, or 5 of these pairs, but to match all 8 pairs every single time is like, what is going on? How can anyone be so fortunate and so lucky? Okay, so anyway, you could flip the tables, like I said, and have them win every time, which I think in some ways is more fun because you can really put on a performance as to how sorry you feel for yourself about all of this. Okay, and so that's what I mentioned right here. So if you prefer for the spectator always win, then just switch performer and spectator in the previous routine right up and you're all set to go. Okay, so this is the kind of the first installment in this little series devoted to n-Tuple Bessey sequences of order 8. And so in the coming videos, I hope to give you some great ideas as to how to use this extension of Bessey sequences to accomplish outcomes that have never been demonstrated before. And why is that? It's because Bessey sequences have never been used before in mathematical card magic until I started using them on my Hidden Structures YouTube channel. So thank you for watching, and watch for other videos in this particular series. But equally important, take a look at the many, many videos and many playlists on the Hidden Structures channel